What's up, guys, and welcome back to Scourge of War Waterloo, episode 25, where we bring you the most dependable, most efficient, and most repeatable strategies to beating every single scenario in Scourge of War Waterloo. So, today we're going to be taking a look at the Allied core scenario by Saber, attack, and pursue. And this is a cavalry scenario. It's 45 minutes long. We're going to be playing Uxbridge's cavalry. And the situation is the French infantry in tidy clusters of thousands is approaching your lines. In a matter of minutes, their sheer numbers will overwhelm the Allied infantry in front. You stand ready, awaiting your orders, for the French are not yet aware of your presence, but they soon will be. And the mission is attack and pursue the enemy. So basically, what this is it's supposed to be the Allied cavalry repulse of Derland's attack after he came up with the ridge, pushed back by Lance Brigade, and started to penetrate Wellington Center. Uxbridge's cavalry came forward, hit them in the flanks, and basically routed them. However, as always, I look for easy ways to win these scenarios. So basically, the dirt I found in this scenario is this. What's going to happen is the whole of Derland's corps is going to come forward and attack the Allied infantry up on the ridge here. They're going to attack La Hassant and so forth, and try and push forward. And the idea behind this scenario is that you time it so that as the units push forward and are engaged, you come forward and hit them on the flanks, and basically collapse the French attack. However, there's a much easier way to beat the scenario. As always, I try and find the easiest and most dependable and most repeatable ways to gain a major victory. And I always seem to find something. I don't know. It's just kind of what I do. So basically, what's going to happen is we don't actually need to repulse the French with the cavalry back here. There is more than enough Allied infantry and cannon up here. The French are not going to break through. Not in any serious manner. They will, they'll push Lance Brigade back. They'll penetrate here and there, but they are not going to overrun this position. There's too much Allied infantry back here, back behind the ridge. There's guns. It's just not going to happen. We don't really need to contribute to that. But this is it doesn't have an objective, this scenario. There is no objectives in this scenario. And scenarios with no objectives are kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gives you a certain freedom of action and freedom of maneuver that you don't necessarily have with scenarios that have objectives that you have to capture and have to be held. So in this scenario, we only need 1,000 points for a major victory. And since there's no objectives, we have to get them all by either casualties or capturing artillery or whatever. So what's going to happen is as the French move forward here with Derland's entire corps, and Bru's brigade will attack Papelotte, but all 7 brigades that make up the main assault line, excluding Bru's brigade at Papelotte, will move forward. When that happens, they're going to basically uncover all their artillery. All that artillery back up on the ridge, the 80 guns that we had when we played Counterland's attack, they're basically going to be defenseless. Now, not counting these 3 divisions here, we have another 3 divisions over on our extreme left. And what we're going to do is once the French come forward, we're going to sling these forces out kind of between Papelotte and there's another house on the extreme right of the French gun line. And we're going to send just a couple of hundred men, like 1 cavalry brigade, and we're going to sweep around and take most of this gun line. And that's how we're going to get our 1,000 points. We're going to take virtually no casualties in this scenario. We're going to swing forward, get the guns, bring the men back, and then take all our cavalry and retreat them far behind the lines to protect them. So they're not anywhere near the combat, and they can't get their points picked off or anything once we get them. So let's scroll down here a little bit more. And okay, as you can see, 1,000 points for a major victory. And artillery yields a lot of points. I think it's something like 30 points a gun, and there's 80 guns lined up out there. I mean, it's just, and they're lined up like a smorgasbord for us. I mean, we literally just have to run down, sweep west along the ridge here, and just capture as many guns as we need to get over 1,000 points. Again, real easy to beat the scenario. You just have to think out. Most of what I do is thinking outside the box. I know what the scenario wants me to do. I know what the scenario writer intended for me to do, but not having any objectives kind of frees me up to think outside the box and say, well, how can I make the scenario easy? How can I do this? With not having to control a humongous amount of troops and get into a mess of a battle. You always want to try and keep everything as tidy as possible and as organized as possible if you can. So yeah, I've played the scenario a bunch of times where I did what the scenario writer wanted me to do. I counterattacked Erlan's forces. The scenario is winnable that way. You just have to kind of hit and run with individual brigades. Look for opportunities, where you can attack units in the flank where they're, before they have a chance to form square, it can be won like that. But it's, it takes a while because you have to basically do it in little tiny strikes where you take out a couple of units, run back, take a fresh brigade, hit another couple of units. I was sure there was an easier way to do this, and as always, I find it. All right, so let's get this going here, and I'll show you what we're gonna do. So this is Uxbridge's biography. As always, you guys can read that when you play the scenario. And here we go. All right, and here is William Paget, or Henry William Paget, the Earl of Uxbridge, who is commanding the cavalry corps. We have 8,000 men under our command, and we're really not going to use a lot of them. We're going to use like one small cavalry brigade to get done what we want to do here. And here's our courier. It says, the enemy will be reaching our position soon. Allow our infantry to take its toll, then attack. Do not give the enemy time to react and form squares. Be swift and decisive. And that is from the Duke of Wellington, the commander of the Army of Low Countries. However, as I said, we have our own game plan here. We're going to snake out over on the left here. And we're going to take this brigade right here, and here's the brigade commander, but I'm going to go up to the division commander here, and we're going to actually move the entire division forward, because sometimes one brigade they get tired before they can take enough pieces to actually get over 1,000 points. So I'll move a whole division out here in case we need another brigade to make a second strike, and I advise you guys to do that too. In this instance, my strike worked perfectly, and I only needed one brigade. But it's always good to just move one division out so that, if you need to send a second strike to pick up the rest of the guns, you can. And all we're really going to do here is kind of just deploy and wait for the French attack to get underway. As you can see, they're moving forward, past their gun line. And once they move past their gun line, their guns are going to be completely uncovered. And we are going to snake out on their right flank there and just turn right and charge into their gun line. Real simple. So you can see all our, like I said, plenty of Allied infantry here to deal with this attack. Plenty of cannon. We don't need to be involved with this. So really all we need to do is get our 1,000 points here, and that's it. And you can see that a gun line is just lined up like a smorgasbord for us. Just like an artillery picnic out there, just waiting for us to overrun it. And you can see Bruce Brigade out on the left here. They're going to be tied up fighting Papalot. We're going to sneak down right here. Going to use this house and these trees as cover and just advance right past them. And then turn right and turn right into the guns. And like I said, we're going to do this with about 500 men. That's it. As they say, easy money. So I'm just walking my cavalry. I don't need to exhaust them. We got plenty of time to get this set up here because we have to wait until the French are actually up near the ridge and committed to the battle, you know, and not near their guns anymore. As you can see, they're advancing in column of line, and they're going to come all the way up. And as soon as they do, these guns will not be defended by anybody, and we can just swoop down around that house and just sweep westward towards Lai Hassan, towards the gun line, and just gobble them up like Pac-Man. And once we get over 1,000 points, we will take the entire cavalry corps and withdraw them far behind the Allied lines, so they're safe and sound, and they really can't lose any men. So the French are starting to push the Dutch Belgians back as they come forward. We're waiting for Pigot's brigade here is kind of lagging behind the rest of the attack, so we really have to wait for them to move further forward before we can get by them and be sure that they're not going to turn around and protect the guns. So we're going to set our position here where we're going to head for. And like I said, we're just using Slay's brigade here. He's got 456 men. I'm going to set them in line. And once I do, take command of all subordinates so nothing can interrupt them. And again, we're going to let them walk most of the way here. We have plenty of time. This is a 45-minute scenario. And this will be all over within like the first 15 minutes. And then we're just going to careen up the line here and just take all these guns. Dirty, huh? That's a lot easier than trying to pick and choose targets amongst the French infantry. Infantry can actually form square relatively quickly in this game, so it's like you really have to sneak up on them and kind of get around their flank and not let them see you coming, because it only takes a couple of seconds for them to form square, and then your charge is basically wasted. You would have to retreat and get out of the way and wait for another opportunity to charge. It's a pain in the butt to do that and try and work your way up to 1,000 points when these guns are sitting out there undefended and just lined up waiting for us to gobble them up and get over 1,000 points. No problem. There's plenty of artillery out there for us to eat. So Pigot's brigade has kind of stopped, but I think they're stopped because of this artillery in front of them, and they don't want to get too close to it. But I'm still sneaking my brigade out there. You know, if Pigot tries to turn and face us, we can just double click and outrun them. They really can't catch us. What I'm more worried about is if Bruce brigade, some of those units, try to decide that they want to interfere. But luckily, they're pretty tied up fighting the troops in Papalot right now, and we're kind of just going to go right here and kind of stay out of engage distance of all these troops. Just sneak down right through here, set up on the flank of the artillery, and then just you know, gallop forward like madmen and sweep up and take all these guns. Lots of points. Lots of points. Artillery is very valuable in this game. So the French are moving back now. They've pushed pretty much all of Bylance's brigade out of the sunken lane and are advancing towards it. So Pagot's brigade is sending skirmishers forward, finally getting themselves together. And what they'll do is send those skirmishers probably into range of the artillery to try and start getting small arms fire going, forcing the guns to retreat. So as you can see, we're just walking out there, taking our time. We got plenty of time to make this happen. So as you can see, Pagot's brigade has skirmishers set up now, and what they're going to do is start shooting at these guns to try and turn them around, so that the rest of his brigade doesn't get pounded by canister as they move up. Now the skirmishers are taking canister fire, but canister fire doesn't have the same effect on skirmishers that it does on densely packed groups of troops here. So yeah, while we're waiting for our cavalry to get into position, I'm just kind of watching the battle and seeing what's going on here. As you can see, the French have inserted themselves and have turned Bylance's left flank here and are trying to push forward. However, some of these Dutch-Belgian units are turning to face them from behind. And Baru's brigade is tied up fighting the troops in the Papilot farmhouse complex. And we got one Dutch-Belgian unit in square out here holding all that cavalry at bay. That's nice. And now some of these Dutch Belgians are falling back. And we have one unit lagging behind here. I'm just going to double quick them briefly because I can see they're the far left unit in the deployment line. So I'm actually going to double quick this unit and just get them ahead of the rest of the units. Now, as we deploy here, some of these outermost guns here will start to limber and try and get out of there. That's okay, though. There's so many guns lined up here that if a couple of them get away, who cares? We just need to take enough of them to get over 1,000 points, and that's it. We won. So as you can see, some of these outermost guns are starting to limber. They see the cavalry coming around. I'm double-quicking now to get into position. And we got a whole little artillery shish kebab here, just set up, waiting for us to run them down. So again, I'm moving them forward in line. Take command of all units. Remember, the double quick and the charge button will still work even if all your units are on take charge. You can still use those two functions from the brigade commander. So even though all my subordinate units are on take charge, they will still charge from the brigade commander's command. So here we go, and we are charging. And every gun is 30 points, so you're just going to see 30, 60, 90, 120, and we're just going to keep going until we get over 1,000 points. Uh, 190, 220. 250, 280, 310, and they're all completely unprepared now. We're just zooming them. And like I said, some of them get away, but who cares? All we need to do is get over 1,000 points here, and we're golden. And there's so many guns. It's like a never-ending line. We can just keep charging, keep taking them. So we're up to 474 points now, 500 points. Halfway there. And we're just going to keep charging until we get over 1,000 points. So this unit now has decided it's going to start charging some of these guns running away, but we still have this unit that is pushing forward, and we'll capture the rest of these guns in the line. These units capture some guns too. So we're at 710 points, and these guns not even trying to limber. They're caught. They are caught. And I'm just mashing the charge button, mashing the charge button. By mashing the charge button, you stop the units from stopping to reform after capturing each gun, and they just keep charging away, charging away. And we're at 920 points here. I'm just scrolling upward. 950. Keep going, boys. Keep going. 980. 1,010. So we're over 1,000 points, but we're just going to keep charging the guns until the cavalry tuckers itself out here. And yeah, that's about it right there. So we got 1,100 points, and we still got these two units charging here. So see if we can get any more here. And I ultimately have to break off the attack here, because as we scroll forward, there's some French cavalry back there that I didn't know was there, and we don't want to mess with them, because we just tuckered ourselves out capturing all this artillery. So we don't want to get anywhere near this brigade of French cavalry back here. So we got 1130. And oh, look at that. There's a whole cavalry division back there. No, 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 no. We don't want to deal with them. So we got 1195. Let's pull back. And we're going to withdraw just back the way we came. We're going to take a couple of casualties from this unit that is turning to face us here, but only like 2. I think we suffer literally 2 casualties this whole scenario. Alrighty. So again, I'm taking the units off take command, setting them a position, putting them all on take charge so nothing can distract them, and double clicking them back to where they started. And I will begin, since we got over 1,000 points, well over 1,000 points. No one, I'm going to start pulling some of these brigades back, just to get them away from any French units. Because once you have your 1,000 points, you don't want to engage the enemy anymore. You just want to basically hide. So we have 1,218 points total. And the rest of those points are probably just from artillery hits from our we have a battery of artillery out there firing somewhere. So I'm bringing Ponsonby's brigade back. And again, I'm just, now that we've got our 1,000 points, I'm just pulling these units back, getting them away from any of the enemy. And here come our 3 brave cavalry regiments that got us all our points. Bringing them back, and I'm setting new positions for them just to keep them moving. Again, we'll double quick them. They'll head right for this position, and then we'll pull them back even further. The French are probably wondering, what the hell happened to all our cannon? Well, you shouldn't have left your right open like that, should you? So once I get all my cavalry back and behind the Allied lines, then I will go over to Uxbridge and take command of him, and we'll move the entire corps back behind the lines and just set them up and let them sit there for the rest of the battle. Like I said, the French are never going to penetrate this Allied line. There's too much infantry, there's too much artillery, and they're just going to get shot up and not have. I mean, look at this. Most of these units haven't even been engaged yet. Got a whole bunch of stuff back here. The French are not going to get through this. There's no reason that we have to get involved. They're never going to get through all this infantry. You know, all we needed was 1,000 points. The French left their gun line defenseless. They left an easy approach route between Papillotte and that house as cover, and it was just real easy to just snake a cavalry brigade out there and take a whole bunch of cannon. And again, I'm sure we're getting away with this because I'm sure the scenario author just never conceived of something like this, or that a player would think of doing something like this. You know, how many scenarios now have we done that with? We did that with Saint Armand, turning all the artillery around and using skirmishers to basically force all those divisions to deploy much further back than they wanted to. In Gerard's attack on Ligny, we approached the town from a direction that was completely unexpected and basically walked into the objective and captured it. You know, Derland's attack, you're expected to attack this line just like the French are doing here, but we didn't do that because the total amount of points you need was so low that we were able to just attack La Hassante, capture that, and just get enough points for a major victory from that. So with every scenario, I always seem to find some way to make it real easy to accomplish what we need to accomplish. Alrighty, so we got Paget here, the Earl of Uxbridge, and we're just going to go way back here and bring all the cavalry back here, way behind the Allied lines, where there's no way we're going to take any more casualties. I mean, we've only taken 2 casualties. Nothing serious. And we're going to bring the whole corps back here. So you can see the entire corps moving. And I'm just going to take command of this battery, and then because I don't know where they're headed in the formation, so I'm going to take command of them and just move them kind of in front of where the cavalry sets up. And they'll actually pick up a couple of more points for us, but it doesn't matter. We're already 200 points above what we need, and we're going to completely disengage from the battle. As I said, our AI-controlled friendly units here, they do not need our help. They're going to hold, for the most part. I originally think about putting the guns up here to get some more points first, just because I'm always greedy for more points. But I decide ultimately, you know what, let's just play it safe. Because, what if the French actually do break through and, capture or rout some of those guns? I don't want to get dropped down. So I'm going to I'll just set them up back here. Call me a chicken, but I'm a smart chicken. So yeah, all our cavalry is being pulled back now behind the lines where there's no chance of them getting some points whittled off of them. And yeah, pretty much the rest of the scenario, we're just going to spend watching them battle here. Because all we control is the cavalry. We don't control any of this infantry up front. That's all under AI control. You know, and you know, again, part of the problem with having scenarios that don't have any objectives is it just leaves you a lot more choices. A lot more freedom of maneuver and a lot more room to think outside the box about how you're going to get the amount of points you need. It's a double-edged sword because sometimes there's just no easy way to do it if in scenarios that don't have objectives. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, grit your teeth and fight. But you know, in this instance, I found yet another easy way to get all the points we need and not really have to get involved in this rather messy battle out here. So yeah, look at all this infantry. There's plenty of infantry, plenty of guns. So the French have captured La Hassant. They've driven off those KGL regiments, and they're now moving through it. And these 95th Rifles better turn around because the French are coming for their back. So some of these Dutch-Belgian units are falling back. But, you know, they stopped up the French for a while. None of this British infantry back here behind the ridge has even engaged yet. And you can see all our cavalry heading way back behind the lines where they will be safe and sound. And it does take them a while to get there. I did send them back pretty far. The Duke of Wellington is probably wondering, where the heck are you guys going? And my answer to him would be, hey man, we got our points. You're on your own. Good luck. Be happy we took all those guns. You can still see Bruce Brigade slugging it out with those Dutch Belgians in Papillote, who are pretty secure in their fort. The French have definitely breached. They've routed the artillery that was here. They're definitely pushing up against the Allied lines. And this one square over there is holding up all that French cavalry. Wow, there used to be guns here. All over here there used to be guns. They don't have much left, do they? Look at this. Empty space. All these artillery commanders are wondering where their guns are. Look at that. All the way from this house, all the way over here, we took all those guns. The French have kind of crossed the sunken lane now, still pushing forward. But, you know, as I said, none of this Allied infantry has even been engaged yet. You boys better turn around, because look what is coming through the garden here. The one thing these 95th Rifles have going for them is I believe they're of a pretty high troop quality. I think they're level 7 veteran troops. So depending on what troop quality Charlet's brigade is, and I think they're mostly level 6s, and depending on how worn out they are from trying to capture the fort and how depleted they got, if those 95th Rifles turn around, they might have a chance of repulsing them. All our cavalry heading back. So our guns are deploying. They'll pick up a few more points for us. You know, they're pretty far back, but you know, here and there they'll land a shell. So our Allied lines here are hotly engaged with the French. Still got a few battalions back there unengaged they can bring forward. They've definitely got a good toehold of the sunken lane over here. They always seem to have trouble approaching the right here just because it's so covered by artillery. And look at this. You 95th Rifles, turn around, dummies. You're going to get charged in the back. Look at this. And you want to know something even crazier? They're going to win. Their troop quality is really high, and I'm guessing this unit that charged them is just pretty worn out. They're level 7, veteran. And look at that, they won. They lost a lot of men in that charge, but the French morale gave out. Like I said, they were probably pretty tuckered out from capturing the fort. So I can't believe that. They charged into the rear and they lost. Not that they lost, they were inflicting more losses on the 95th Rifles, but I guess their morale just gave out. So one of these units now is heading over to the left. I can't say I blame them. That's where the French are really making the most progress. You know, it's tough to make progress on the right with all those guns there. So the place to push forward is kind of over here. See these Dutch-Belgian units falling back, and a British unit moving up to take their place. So we picked up a few more points with our cannon. We're up to 1,223 points. And our cavalry is just, I just set them all up in column here, column by division. So yeah, we got a few more points from artillery. But really all you have to do is get over 1,000 points and then just pull back and sit here. And you won. So some of these French units are giving way. Charlet's brigade is mostly penned up around La Hassant. They got one unit forward shooting it out with the 95th Rifles in there. Let's see how these cannons are doing. Almost 500 points on that battery, 169 points on that battery. So artillery's doing pretty good. And there's still plenty of Allied infantry back here, even though the French have pushed pretty far forward. Sending out, look at this, sending out some skirmishers. There you go. So Wellington has 4,000 points. So he's doing pretty good. He's inflicted 4,400 casualties. He's taken about 2,200 casualties. So this is a bloody assault, but Wellington is getting the best of it. Now, when I play the scenario conventionally, usually around the last 15 minutes of the scenario, that's when I try and really hit these French hard with the cavalry and run them off. You know, while they're hotly engaged here, you try and come in, come in on the flanks and just kind of run across the field and hit as many of them as you can with a couple of brigades, and rack up as many points as you can. But as I said, that's, it takes more timing, and it takes a lot more control and a lot more effort, and it's just easier to go and get 1,000 points from the guns at the beginning. With a lot of these scenarios, all it takes is a little bit of creative thinking, and can usually find a way to do what you need to do easier. So here's our cavalry corps, all set up in a nice little parade formation. They look very nice. There they are. It's a lot of cavalry. It's just pretty cheap that we were able to get our 1,000 points, and literally we took 2 casualties. That's pretty cheap. That's a lot of cavalry. Not going to take any more casualties from all the way back there. So the French are still trying to push forward in the middle here. It's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of Allied infantry back here. And they lose a lot of men on the approach from the canister fire of the guns, and, the men that the Dutch Belgians kill before they start falling back. It's like 2 or 3 layers of defense here. It's just really hard for only 7 brigades to break through that. A lot of these British units, you can see that are deployed in line. They're really big. They have a lot of men. And by now, most of these French, battalions have been engaged, for, a half an hour. They're pretty tuckered out by now. That's why I say we didn't really need to help our allies out here. There's more than enough infantry here to stop, if not completely repulse, the attack. And since there's no objectives, there's no reason for us to get ourselves involved in this mess. It's not like we need to hold a position to get points. We needed 1,000 points, and we went and got it the easiest way we could. So these 95th Rifles are still holding on here. These guys aren't getting the best of it, but they are screening those guns from getting shot at. Well, it looks like they're really trying to come forward over there. So this unit is engaged now. We still got to call a couple of more battalions out here if they need to get involved. And let's see what's going on at Papilot. You can see this square is still holding all this cavalry at bay. And it looks like Bru's brigade got repulsed and is regrouping for another shot at this, but it looks like Papilot is holding pretty well. Oh, what is this French column doing here? Oh, are they charging? Bye-bye, Dutch Belgians. See ya. Yep. a rough life being from the Netherlands. So now this 640 man British battalion here, these Royal Scots, are going to be shooting to pieces this little French battalion that is about half their size. So they should mop them up. And what are you dummies doing? You're pulling back? Are you serious? You're pulling back from a little tiny battalion like that? You chickens. No Medal of Honors for you guys. Yeah, bring an officer up here. Let's get these guys to stand. They're not even bad troops. They're level 6 regular. Why are you retreating away from this little French battalion that you're shooting to pieces? You're winning. You chickens. The Duke of Wellington will hear of this. Oh my God, can you guys believe this? How does a 630-man battalion run away from this little tiny group of Frenchmen who are also retreating? You chickens. And look how far back they're falling back. Unbelievable. Wellington will hear of your cowardice. Luckily enough, that French battalion also had enough, and off they go. But a nice sized gap is open in here now. Some of these French units want to try and push through. Some of these units have lost the taste for the fight here. They're like, I don't know if we want to come forward any more further than this. And Charlet's brigade here is pretty bottled up by La Hassant. They've captured the fort, but they can't seem to push much further past it. These chickens right here are still running. Alright, here we have some the East Essex Regiment of Foot is moving forward to plug the gap here. And look at this. You boys are falling back too? Boy, you chickens. All our cavalry just chilling. So our guns have picked up a few more points. Little 4-gun battery that we got there. So we have 1,228 points. So the gap in our line has been plugged by these Essex soldiers here. And it looks like the French attack is beginning to peter out. It looks like they're starting to pull back. In some places, they're just kind of holding on. Looks like some of these British units are starting to move forward. And it looks like the right side of the French line there is starting to pull back. And Charlet's brigade by La Hassant is just bottled up there. They can't move past it. There's 2 batteries of artillery up on the ridge kind of right past it. And those 95th rifles are still standing there holding them in check. And this looks like Rob went to the fridge to get a drink, and that's why the camera's not moving. And Rob is back. So the French are still holding on the right here. we have a lone cannon right here that's firing canister fire into this unit. Most of the rest of that battery got run off. Now they have some units in here that could push forward, but like I said, I think they're pretty well tuckered out, and it's kind of the end of the road for them as far as trying to push forward goes. And there's still plenty of battalions back here. And the French are holding on, but I don't think they have anything left to kind of push forward with. There's all our cavalry just sitting there looking pretty. You chickens, look at these guys. Running away. Running away. Oh. And we still got one gun here, one brave gun shooting canister at any unit that comes within range. And look at this, the AI has actually screened that gun with skirmishers. You don't usually see that from them, from the AI. And now the French are sending some skirmishers forward. That's a big size skirmisher unit too. I wonder what they're doing, what they're thinking with that. So these guys are really getting pounded. Oh, there go the 95th Rifles. Routed. Well, they held up there for a real long time. I guess I can't be too angry with them. So Charlet's brigade has finally gotten rid of the 95th Rifles. Well, look at this. Look at this. The French are sending some cavalry forward. But guess what, fellas? There's only 20 seconds left in the scenario. I don't think you're going to have time to do anything. End of the road. So we got 1,232 points. Major victory. We took 2 casualties. Gun captures are not really reflected in the casualties, except for the gun crew that you kill. So all our points were scored basically from artillery capture. Yeah. So yeah, I realize that's a pretty easy scenario, guys. It's not too exciting. Well, at least the battle between the Allies and the French up on the ridge is fun to watch, but I realize we didn't really do too much. But again, I always want to show you guys just how you can get a major victory the easiest and most efficient way possible. And when the French move up and uncover all their guns, it's such an inviting target to just slip out there and capture as many of them as you can, get 1,000 points, and then call it a day and sit back and watch the rest of the battle. And it's kind of an easy win. So all right, guys, that's it for this episode, and I will see you next time.